Hi, this is Jackie with After Hours Stamper, and today I thought I'd share with you how I customize embellishments to go along with my projects. This is one example of how I do that. I stamp this image and then heat emboss it with detailed gold embossing powder, and then I went ahead and pulled some flowers out and heat embossed those on the edges with the same gold powder. And I think what that does is it brings together the card very easily, and it's easy to do with very plain embellishments. Today I'm going to be using flowers, but you could try this on buttons. I'll show you how it works on that, or chipboard, or anything else. The flowers I'm using come from a company called Wild Orchid Crafts, and they have all sorts of different sizes and shapes, and I just think their flowers are great. The first thing I'd like to show you is how you can customize a rose or any kind of flower by using a product called Smooch. And this is a pearlized accent ink, and I like the bottle that it comes in, and it comes in all sorts of colors, including white. And all you need to do is take it out of the bottle, and you have a little brush tip there. And what I do is I just go ahead and go over the flower, just the tips of it, because I like just that color right there on the tips. And so I'm adding a little bit of red to my flower, and if I've used this color on my project in some way, that's a nice way to tie it together. Now you could leave the flower like this, but you can also take it to another level, and let me show you that. A lot of us have glimmer mist and products like that, and I've taken some and poured it into this container, and I like to do this technique this way because I don't like to spray the flower and get it everywhere. And all I do is go over this red and move the color, the smooch, around a little bit. Now you want to be careful, because if you go on the smooch and then go into your little container of flowers, some of the ink may come off. So what you can do is just go ahead and dip your brush in some water to get that red off, and then just go around and add that glimmer to the red if you want. Or you can use water to move that color around. I just happen to like to add this glimmer to the rose, and it makes it look just so pretty, and then it adds a little bit of dimension to your flower. Now the last thing you can do with this is you can take your smooch again, because you've taken some of the color out of the rose, and then run your smooch just over the top, and so you get the pearl. So now there's other ways that you can add some quick color to your flowers, and one of my favorite ways is to use embossing powder. So all you need is some kind of embossing ink. Be careful if you use a tinted embossing ink, because that can leave some color behind if you don't want that color. And what I do, you can use a embossing ink pen or a pad. I just take my flower and then just put the tips of the flower in that pad, because I usually just want the color on the top of the flower. If you want more of the embossing powder inside the flower, then you could just go ahead and use your pen to get deeper in there. I've made my own embossing powder, and I've mixed clear embossing powder with some mica powder, and it just is just such a wonderful effect on your flower. So this one's a yellow, and it leaves a very soft color, just a hint of the color with a little bit of the glimmer from the mica powder. To mix the powder, all I do is add a little bit of clear embossing powder, and I always heat my heat gun up, by the way, before I heat my whatever I'm going to heat, so I don't overheat. And you just get just a touch of color going on there, but it's a very soft mica color. But to mix this, all I do is take a little bit of mica powder like this, and I just put it on the end of this craft stick and mix it in with some clear embossing powder. Now remember too, you can do that technique with any of your embossing powder. The other thing I like about these flowers, I like the stem, and what I like to do is take it, and I'm using a piercing tool, and I just wrap that stem around the piercing tool, and I get a coil. And then I take that coil and I just go over the coil with my marker, with my Versa marker, And for this one, sometimes I'll just go ahead with the same, whatever I've embossed with, but I'm just going to go ahead and dip this into some pearl green because I like the effect. And tap that off, and then heat it up, and it'll leave a nice little effect onto, it'll leave a nice little effect right on that coil. So don't forget to take your embossing powder out when you're customizing things to go with your projects. Now another thing I wanted to show you real quick before I forget is don't forget that you can take buttons and put embossing powder on those as well. So I have a bunch of these buttons, and if I wanted, like I had this one in blue, well, I went ahead and put red embossing powder on it. Here's a white button. I put gold embossing powder on it. And that's a nice way that you can go through your stash, and if you don't have the right color button, you can go ahead and change it if you have the right color embossing powder. I'd also like to remind you that if you want, you can go ahead and paint your flower just with your shimmer product and then put a little bit of gold embossing powder or pearl or whatever else that you might have right around the edges, and that is a nice effect as well. If you want to color your flower, you can use all sorts of things. I'm going to quickly color this flower with some with an alcohol marker, and all I do is run the tip of the marker over the top of the flower or use the side of the marker, whichever you want. Now, I don't like to always get the color all the way through the flower. I like to kind of have it blend out. So I just run it like that. And then you can use your blender pen if you want and help move some of that color deeper into the flower so you get a little bit of a shading effect going on. And the other thing you can do is, because of the way the alcohol markers work, you can also take your marker and go around the edge of it with a different color, so you get a two-tone flower going on. And it works it usually works pretty well with the alcohol markers. And if you don't like that it's not blended enough, just go over with your blending pen. The other thing you can do is you can take a flower like this, any colored flower, even if you have one that's already colored in your stash and you want to embellish it a little bit, you just take that and then add just a little bit of glitter to it. So I used a glue pen. If you don't have a glue pen, you can take something like a glue stick and just put some glue on there and put it on the top of your flower, or if you want more glitter on it, you can put it all the way through. And then you add just a little bit of glitter to your flower without changing the color too much. Now another way you can color your flower is to use pigment ink. And pigment ink is a slower drying ink, and it's not water-based, it's pigment-based. And so you can't blend it this as you would like with water. But what's nice is when you use the pigment ink, you don't need to use any embossing ink if you want to emboss over it. I use a Q-tip to pick the color up. You could also wipe your flower in there if you wanted. And then usually what I do is I just run the Q-tip over the tip of the flower. Again, that's my preference. If you wanted more color in there, you could certainly pick up more color and put more color on the petals of the roses. But I just like to personalize it and customize the flower. I like that softer look. The next thing I like to do, especially when I'm using kind of a darker pigment paint or ink like this, is I like to take this white pearl embossing powder and I dip my flower right in there, tap off the excess, and then go ahead and heat emboss this. And the white pearl is just so wonderful. It leaves a very nice kind of frosted look, but it is very light, so sometimes you have to go and add more than one coat. And I've got, as you can see, I've been inserting pictures in between here. One of the other reasons I like customizing my products is when I first started crafting, I bought a lot of ready-made things, pre-colored flowers, pre-colored embellishments, and I found that a lot of times I wasn't able to use them. I'd create a project, then I'd go through all the things I had on hand, and I'd realize that none of them were going to match what I needed for my project. So then I started creating projects based on, you know, a couple of flowers I had, and I thought, well, that's a waste. So the longer I've been crafting, the more I've come to buy products that I want to embellish with, that I can add color to, or I can add glitter to, because it makes matching my project just so much easier. And then here you'll see with this second coat of the pearl, you don't want to overheat. It just adds a really nice effect. All right, I saved the best for last. The last one I want to show you is really a cool technique, and I've been doing this. Let me pull a couple of these out because I just love the effect. And again, you know, part of what I'm doing here today is, remember, you should go through your stash and look at the products you have, and you may have things I don't have. Try them, see if they'll work. But what I've been using with these, and I think they just make gorgeous flowers, is I've been using alcohol inks. And I don't know about you, but I have a lot of these and I don't always use them. So all I do with this is I take the bottle and I just touch the tip. You can see that big drop coming to the edge of the flower. I try to control it a little bit so that I can get just the color on the outside of the flower, but you can't always control it because the drips will come out pretty heavy. But obviously if I wanted to get that color all the way through the flower, I could squeeze the bottle. I'm not squeezing, I'm just tapping the tip of the bottle to the flower. So I'm having a little more control. And again, that's my preference. I like, if I can, just doing the color around the edge of the flower. But if you wanted that color all the way through the flower, you just go ahead and squeeze harder. So I have a little bit of white going on there. And I use this alcohol marker. It's a Tim Holtz alcohol refillable pen. And I put in here the blender solution, and then what I do is I go over the flower with the blender solution and just move that color around a little bit. And if I need to, I'll go back in and add a little bit more ink here and there. But the colors, the alcohol inks, just leave the most beautiful color. I was very surprised at how beautiful the color is with them. I like using them. I have a lot of them, but I just always forget to use them. So there's a little spot. I'll just go right back over there and add a drop there. You could add a drop wherever, really. Now that alone is nice, but you can also, if you want, mix colors. I did this flower earlier and I put 2 colors on this, plus I added some shimmers over that. But what I like to do with this is, and I think it gives it, really brings out the color, is I use, again, the white pearl embossing powder. Just beautiful effect. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm only going to do 1 layer of it, and I'll show you pictures of the other ones I've done that have a couple of layers. But the whole point is just so that you can see how much, you know, the things that you have. I've got a little bit too much on there. There we go. The products that you have, make sure that you look and see so you can use them to create your own custom embellishments. And I'm just going to go ahead and shoot this with my heat gun. Try, again, like I said, try not to overheat it because you'll lose the luster of your whatever you're using. And there you have it. And you should try this because they look beautiful in person. And you'll see some pictures of these. Well, I hope you've liked the video today, and I hope you've learned something. And what I'm really hoping is that you'll go into your products and kind of fool around and try to customize the things that you have. And instead of running out and buying more red heart buttons, go ahead and try to see if you can change that blue to a red, or the white to a gold, or customize your flowers to match your project. Thank you for watching the video. Have a great day, happy crafting, and please, if you get a chance, stop by my blog at afterhourstamper.com. Bye for now.